Hi, I'm Carol Adams, and I'm just going to talk briefly about the IFRS Trustees Consultation Paper on the establishment of a Sustainability Standards Board. There are three things that give me cause for concern about it, well, three key things anyway. First of all, the definition of materiality that's used. Secondly, the idea that the standards should only include information which is considered assurable. And thirdly, this idea that by adding an additional Sustainability Standards Board, we're actually going to reduce the total number of standard setters on sustainability issues. So taking first the definition of materiality, the IFRS trustees' proposal is that only information which is relevant to investors and other market participants can be considered material. And the problem with that is that our research, as you know, shows that investors don't really ask the right questions. They don't know what information is going to impact on their business long term. They tend to look at things which they can translate into monetary terms, and therefore they can see that it's going to impact on profits into the future. And they ignore the things which are not easily translated into numbers. Sustainable development issues, as we know, are complex and interdependent, and it's not easy to think of them in terms of relevance to investors in the immediate or even in the long term, because that means translating them into some kind of impact on corporate value. The issue with assurability is that it's not that information isn't assurable, it's just that assurance providers tend not to like to assure information on processes. They're quite happy assuring metrics, numbers, but they consider the assurance of processes to be more risky. One of the things about making standards mandatory is that if you included information on processes in those standards, then that would require assurance, and assurance providers would then have to find a way of making that information assurable. And it's the processes that companies adopt that really start to change what they do. And to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, we need companies to really transform what they do and how they do it. And on the other issue about the number of Sustainability Standards Board, this idea that adding one actually reduces the total number, there is no plan in the consultation paper of how that reduction will come about. And certainly if they stick to this narrow view of materiality and the idea that information included in standards should be that which assurance providers, typically the big four firms, consider to be assurable, is not going to reduce the need for other standards. So, for example, the GRI standards, which are the most used, they're used by over 8,000 organisations around the globe. They're used by companies in order to report to a wide range of stakeholders and to meet stakeholder demands for information. And if the IFRS Foundation proposal is only looking at a narrow view of materiality, it's not going to reduce the need for those standards reporting to stakeholders. Of course, there's a lot of things in the consultation paper which aren't based on research in social and environmental accounting and reporting that's been going on over a 30-year time span. And there's a letter I drafted that's signed by professors of accounting and journal editors of accounting journals that sets out the key findings of that research which are relevant for this process. It's, we do know that voluntary initiatives don't work, that organisations will hide behind voluntary reporting metrics requirements and not report really material things. So the idea that this information should be mandatory is a good thing, but we need to get it right, and it needs to be enforced. And a good starting point would be to make mandatory the requirements of the GRI standards, the TCFD recommendations, and the International Integrated Reporting Framework, and also to really push to widen out the scope of assurance exercises and what assurance providers are willing to assure. Thank you.